Hey, it's me again, back with another video. Once again, if you're not sure why you're here, this video is going to be going over SCP Secret Lab. So if you're not interested in that, I'll let you leave now. I'm planning on making this into a series, so if you are interested in that, stick around. You're also more than welcome to share your feedback and ideas in the comments. Again, another huge disclaimer, I am not a game designer. I've just put an unhealthy amount of hours into this game and want to acknowledge and point out the issues that this game has and what I believe could fix them. It's a great game, but it's not perfect. For clarification, I'll be switching between the names Shy Guy and 096. Just know that I'm referring to the same SCP. With that out of the way, let's begin. If you already know how 096 works, you can skip to the timestamp on screen now. Shy Guy has two states, docile and enraged, as well as 4 abilities, 1 for docile, 2 for enraged, and 1 passive. 096 and 079 are unable to spawn in the same game unless the server has enough players for all 6 SCPs to spawn. Shy Guy's first ability is Try Not to Cry, which when pressing left click while approaching a flat surface while also being on a flat surface, puts his hands on the wall and is supposed to gradually reduce the volume of his cries, but it doesn't, so that's cool. It also doubles the regeneration of his Hume shield, and you must move away from the wall to cancel the ability as your mouse is locked. Shy Guy's second ability is Scopophobia, which has 4 stages. Docile, his main state, Distress, the transition between docile and enraged, Enraged, and Calming, the transition between enraged and docile. Docile makes 096 unable to harm humans, move at a speed of 4.2 meters a second, and emit sobbing noises that can be heard from a far range. This is the only phase where Try Not to Cry is able to be used. When an enemy looks at his face or damages him, 096 has the next 10 seconds to enter his distress state. Both the enemy and 096 will know when he has been provoked, and 096 must hold down the arrow key for 0.4 seconds to enter the distress state. Once distressed, Shy Guy's speed will be lowered to 3.9 meters a second, and the sobbing will be replaced with screaming. He will be unable to see enemies that have not provoked him, and teammates will become invisible as well. His screen will begin to fade to red, and after 6.1 seconds in this state he will become enraged. Entering enraged immediately stops all Hume regeneration, and you cannot regenerate Hume shield for the rest of the rage until it stops. His speed will nearly double, reaching 8 meters a second, and grant access to his other 2 abilities that can only be used in this phase, melee attack and charge. 096 will be screaming in this phase, and the screaming will be unaffected by audio dampening effects. Targets will be highlighted and can also be seen through walls at a fairly far distance, and anyone that provokes 096 in this state will also instantly become a target. Pressing E on a bulkhead or gate will force 096 through, allowing teammates to enter or leave as well. Any human, regardless of being a target or not, will take 200 damage if they attempt to pass through. The base rage time is 20 seconds, however, for every human that provokes 096 while he's enraged, will also add 3 seconds to the timer for a maximum of 35 seconds. After the timer ends, or 096 holds down the same key for 0.4 seconds, he will enter his last state, which is the calming state. Shy Guy will stop screaming and his speed will reduce to 3.9 meters again. If there are any targets, he will lose all of them, and anyone that isn't a target as well as his teammates will become visible again. Hume shield will be able to regenerate again, and if 15 seconds have passed while enraged and he hasn't taken any damage, Hume shield will instantly begin regenerating in the calming state. The red filter will also fade in this phase, and will last 5 seconds before 096 returns to the docile state, and 096 can only become provoked 1 second after entering the docile state again. The process then repeats. Shy Guy's third ability, Melee Attack, allows him to perform a quick melee swing that has a pretty large hitbox. Only targets that have provoked 096 will take damage from this ability. Targets that have not, regardless of being directly hit, will take no damage. Each swing does 60 damage and it is unaffected by armor. This attack will break doors if close enough to one to do so. Shy Guy's last ability, Charge, will quickly force 096 in the direction he is looking by pressing right click. This ability cannot be cancelled and you cannot change direction mid-charge. If 096 hits a target that has provoked him with this ability, they will take 90 damage and receive the concuss status effect for 10 seconds. Enemies that are not a current target of 096 will still take damage, but it will be reduced to 35 and concussed will only last 4 seconds. They will also not become a target if they are damaged. Doors will also be broken by this ability, and if 096 charges into a bulkhead or gate, he will be forced through it. This ability has a 5-second cooldown. That's it for how 096 works, so what's his issues? The main issues I'm going to be going over are his inconsistency, both gameplay-wise and actual issues with the game, his gameplay and role, and how the game is supposed to be played when he's there or not. For starters, 096 is inconsistent. So inconsistent that he ends up dying within the first 5 minutes of the round, or completely dominating the round to the point where humans have no chance of winning. His kit is entirely based on game knowledge and communication. Don't got both of those? Good luck. Have both of those? The game is a breeze. I don't think I've ever seen a round in my almost 900 hours of SL where 096 has felt balanced once. It's to the point where he gets metagame to the max on both sides. 096 spawns, rush micronis out of the game. Your 096, just stay with your teammates until the first spawn wave, then camp the gates until there's enough people dead to push surface. It's frustrating to see the same methods over and over with playing 096 and playing against him. And it doesn't even extend to just gameplay. The detection system used to provoke Shy Guy is also extremely inconsistent. I have 3 recorded clips of me looking directly at Shy Guy's face. One of them got corrupted, sadly. And it not triggering, which I'll play now. How did I not look at your face? What the fuck? There's also multiple cases in which he will get provoked by someone even if they didn't look at him. I have one clip of this happening. Oh, that looks at you? That's cringe. Regardless of these instances, it happens often enough that I feel it's important to bring up. Something seriously needs to be done with the inconsistency at which you look or don't look at 096. Shy Guy's role is limited to being a nuclear bomb that needs to be babysat by his big, strong statue at every inconvenience. His gameplay is 90% sit with your teammates so you're not a ticket generator and make them do all the work, and 10% of fights where you're actually required for the win condition. You're required for any fights on surface as you're the only one that's fast enough to handle them. If no 173 spawns in a round with an 096, one of your other teammates must be a dedicated babysitter, ruining not only their experience, but being forced to put their life on the line just because of how valuable you are. Technically speaking, 096 is the only frontline in SL. Most occasions, 173 pushes first, then falls behind his teammates. No one else is fast enough to rival Shy Guy, which is why he's such a valuable asset in really risky teamfights. But it's to the point where he's too useful. Like, losing him most of the time spells a round loss. Also, why on earth do you not get to choose when you want to break doors? Doors aren't just useful to humans, they're useful to SCPs too, especially weak ones or when your hume shield breaks. Oh no! 939 is really low and needs to get away, but what's this? All the doors in Heavy are broken! Oops. Door breaking not only just sucks as a mechanic, but is quite literally a nerf to 096 rather than a buff. This also doesn't even account for when there are enough players that 079 and 096 can spawn in the same round. 079 is genuinely useless if all the doors are broken. I get so pissed when I unintentionally break a door playing Shy Guy to the point where it makes me want to forcefully stick an ice pick in my eye socket and sever my frontal lobe from the rest of my brain because maybe that will make me feel better. I'm sure you can tell what SCPs I hate just by showing you my preference list. I also really don't understand why you can't cancel charge if you're midway through. Too many times have I seen an 096 fall into the pit at Gate A. I even did it myself the day the new gates were added. Genuinely, not being able to see your teammates while enraged has been one of the most confusing mechanics of scopophobia. Not being able to see people that haven't provoked you is fine. I consider that balanced even. But not being able to see teammates is a I don't have a mic or my teammates don't have mics killer. Unironically just makes the game worse for no reason. A lot of this has to do with just genuinely fundamental issues with the game and not 096 himself, but his issues definitely contribute to it. Having a shy guy in the round forces it to be fast-paced. You need to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, because if you don't and your 096 dies, you're going to end up getting overwhelmed by the next spawn wave. Because you don't have an 079, you have no utility to use and take advantage of. Not having an 096 forces the round to be slow-paced. You have to pick your fights carefully and strictly stick to ambushes because that's all you can really do. If you have an 079 and 173, great! You have utility and someone that can take advantage of blackouts. Now, if you have no 079 and 096 in the round, the game becomes frustratingly painful. People can simply sit on surface with both gates closed and wait for the next spawn wave, which they do, and 106 is hot garbage on surface because he can't teleport and has to hit people twice, not even accounting for the fact that if they aren't already traumatized, that doesn't guarantee a kill. Now, I kinda hate to say this, but realistically, 079 and 096 do not mirror each other enough to warrant not existing in the same round. 079 has utility, literally all of it, to the point where no one else gets any. He can help 173 with blackouts a lot, but if everyone has flashlights or there is no 173, your teammates can't take any risky fights at all, and you become useless on surface. Shy Guy, on the other hand, gets all of the combat abilities, with the downside of needing to be monitored 24/7, with like one utility ability, which is being able to open gates. With him, you're able to take risky fights that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, such as 10 people on surface as Deadman's is going off, or taking heat off of a teammate from a large group when they're about to die. Now, granted, 079 and 096 together are extremely powerful, but it's losing one thing that could have been more valuable than the other, depending on the round. Or, God forbid, you don't get either. They just don't mirror each other enough to where there's no counterplay if you don't get one or the other. Last 3 people hiding fuck knows where in heavy and there's only 2 SCPs left, or everyone is too low for the next spawn wave, 079 would have been invaluable for that. A ridiculous amount of people on surface and you have no choice but to go because nuke is going up? Sorry! Looks like you'll have to do that with a blackout and some encouragement. Again, we reach the same RNG issue like Doctor has, and this is a fundamental issue with the game and not just an issue with 096 or 079 themselves, but it is important to bring up. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about, so now I'm going to share some ideas I think would make 096 better to play and play against. This obviously won't fix the fundamental issues the game has that impacts 096, surface, progression, health and hume shield, true damage, etc., but should hopefully make the experience a little bit better for Shy Guy. First and foremost, just up his base speed to 4.5 meters a second, please. Not only is it just frustrating to play at a snail's pace, but falling so far behind your teammates leaves you getting ditched more often, which is ultimately what your weakness ends up being. Also, teammates should always be visible when enraged. There's no reason for them not to be, other than to make Shy Guy's gameplay more frustrating. While enraged, you should be able to toggle when you want to break doors with a keybind, and it should automatically be set not to break doors every time you enrage. Charge should be cancelable at any time if it is active by pressing right click again, but no cooldown should be refunded. Exchange Try Not to Cry with a different ability that's similar to 173's Breakneck. When activated, 096 will put his hands over his face. A darken filter should be applied so that he can still see, it's just a little harder to make it more realistic. He can move, albeit slower, probably the same speed he has now. People will be unable to look at his face because it's covered, so the only way to provoke him would be to damage him, just like 173's Breakneck where you can't snap people's necks while it's active. It would also significantly reduce the volume and distance of his cries, allowing 096 to have an easier time being by himself because he's not constantly broadcasting his location. If 096 stops moving for too long, gets damaged, is looked at by a human for too long, or ends it manually, the ability will end. Almost the same conditions at which Breakneck ends. It should also have a cooldown similar or longer to Breakneck, as it provides more value to him. While docile, he should gain a base damage reduction, let's say 15% damage reduction. This way, 096 doesn't just get clobbered by guards or micro at the start of the game, and has a couple more opportunities to make mistakes before just dying outright. When distressed, the damage reduction should gradually decrease as you get closer to enraging. For example, if you're halfway to enraging, your current damage reduction would be 7.5%. Same with calming, but the opposite way. If you're 4 seconds into calming down, your damage reduction would be 12%. This way, you need to be more careful when choosing to enrage, and it's less risky when calming down. I've always really liked the idea of 096 having a last stand sort of ability that would help make him more lore accurate as well. On his SCP page, it's mentioned multiple times that nothing can impede his progress towards his target, regardless of what would be considered fatal damage or even loss of limbs. I would really like that if 096 was currently enraged and takes fatal damage, his enrage timer should reset, and extra damage would overflow into the negatives. He should be able to take out a maximum of 25% of the current amount of alive players before the timer rapidly decays and he becomes recontained after exiting last stand. Additionally, receiving 150 damage to the overflow health should remove 1 second from the last stand timer. This way, if nuke is forced to go off and there's a lot of people on surface, he can at least take care of some of them before dying, giving his teammates a chance if they play it smart. Alternatively, having the max amount you can kill and damage received decay prevents 096 from rushing and killing the entire spawn wave, or just generally being an unfair advantage. To change 096 in basic fights, I think his stats should scale depending on how many people provoke him, up to a cap of course. For starters, his speed should increase the further he is from his closest target, and slow down when close to his nearest target. His damage and melee speed should be reduced if it's just one target, making it so that if you happen to get unlucky, you're not utterly fucked in half of a second. Being provoked by one person would make him deal 40 damage and have his melee delay be 0.8 of a second. These stats would scale up to a cap of 4 people, so speed would eventually stop scaling at a distance and just be the same. Attack damage and attack speed would scale from 40 with 0.8 for one target, 45 with 0.7 for 2, 50 with 0.6 for 3, and 60 with 0.5 when 4 people provoke him. To prevent the issue of him running into too many people at once, he should receive more damage if more than 5 people provoke him, scaling at 0.25 for every extra person that provokes him. So 1.25 times for 6 people, 1.5 times for 7, 1.75 times for 8, and so on and so forth with no cap. The damage multiplier would not apply during last stand, and all stats during last stand will be at their max cap. While I don't think everything here is perfect, and there might be better ideas or changes, I definitely think that this would help at least a little bit. Shy Guy as a playable is really hard to balance, and I do appreciate Northwood for at least trying to make something that is playable, even if it does have some major issues. I do hope that with the Surface update it fixes a lot of fundamental issues that affect 096 that I mentioned. As always, you are welcome to leave your own ideas and comments. Just be civil. Okay, bye-bye!